But in Proverbs chapter 1, the Lord tells us something in verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. We have become a country of educated fools. We no longer know who we are, why we're here, what's right and what's wrong. How did we end up that way? Because we've turned from Jesus. I'll never forget reading Alexander Solzhenitsyn's address when he was asked to speak at one of the celebrations of the commencement at Harvard. And that was really his last opportunity to publicly, from the podium of American academia, address this country. Because of what he said, he was disinvited from then on. And if you have opportunity, you ought to get a hold of his speech, because the bottom line was he recounted how the Soviet Union had fallen, and he can remember as a little boy hearing the old-timers sitting around when they would make sure that none of the KGB spies were around, talking about how did we end up in this mess? How did we end up with a Lenin and a Stalin and all of the nightmare of tens of millions of our countrymen being slaughtered? How did we end up there? And he said the old-timers would say, we have forgotten God. Harvard didn't want to hear that. Harvard didn't want to hear anything about turning away, a Christian nation turning away from Jesus Christ and embracing a different God. But that's what's happened. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. This word beginning is really a fascinating word, because it's the same word that we find in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created. It's the starting point. And so the fear of the Lord is the starting point for knowledge. You want to know who you are? If you don't start with the fear of God, you're going to be a fool. You may be an educated fool, but you will be a fool nonetheless. You won't know what to do with the things that you learn. Not only does this word mean the starting point, but it also has to do with the basic building blocks. No matter how sophisticated a person is, the basic building blocks, for example, of language in English, it's your English alphabet. Those are the basic building blocks of all of the words that we use, no matter how sophisticated and how fancy the word is that you come up with. It's made up of what? Letters. And the fear of the Lord is not only the place where you start, but it's the basic building blocks by which we put together and understand everything else around us. Math, science, history, language, art, music, everything. We must start with who God is and what He has said as He has revealed Himself in Holy Scripture.